So the first thing to do or not to do is when you are pulled over with the DUI, or really anything for that matter, always be polite. Do not give the police an attitude. Do not give them a hard time. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying to you or what they're doing, just be polite. Everything can be taken care of at a later date. The reason I tell everybody this is because I don't want to have to go into the court and speak with the prosecutor and they say, hey, by the way, your client was a real jerk to the police and they're giving me a hard time about working out an agreement now. So it will always be helpful and beneficial to anybody. Whenever you're stopped, always be polite and respectful. After that, whatever, if they ask you to get out of the vehicle, you do it. If they ask you to do the test, the roadside test, you do it. Now, those tests are made to fail. So I don't want anybody thinking, oh, I'm going to not do well. Everybody doesn't do well. If you're 100% sober, you're not going to do well. So that doesn't have anything to do with anything. Just do it. Then after they arrest you and they take you back to the station, they're going to ask you to blow into it what they call an Alka-Test machine. Do it. I understand people say, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. You can you can fight it this way. Wrong. Do it. Blow into the machine, because if you don't, you're going to make my job and any other lawyer's job that you have representing you more difficult. By not blowing into the machine, they're also going to hit you with a DWI and what they call a refusal, because a refusal is a per se violation. So always do what you're asked, and then let your attorney fight that after the fact. That's what we're good at. That's what you're paying us for. So keep just doing that. You'll be fine at the end. It might suck in the very beginning, but at the end of the day, you're going to be all right.
If they should blow in the breathalyzer, and that's always the question I get. Should I blow? Should I not blow? Because technically it is an option. You don't have to blow in the breathalyzer. However, there are some positives and negatives to either one of those decisions. Not blowing in a breathalyzer comes with the penalty of refusing to blow into a breathalyzer, which is an automatic 7-month interlock or license suspension type situation. If you do blow in the breathalyzer, then your penalty is dictated based upon the level of BAC that you have. So back to the original question, should you blow or not blow in the breathalyzer? Well, I would say, number one, obviously don't drink and drive. But if you find yourself in that situation, if you had a couple of beers, 1 or 2 beers, I would recommend blowing into the breathalyzer. And the reason I would recommend that is because your BAC will be most likely very low, and you'll receive very minimal penalties associated with a DWI, which is going to be much less than a refusal of 7 months. A significant strategy from a legal perspective is to challenge the authenticity and the reliability of that reading in the breathalyzer. So without you blowing, then we really don't have that aspect of the defense in place.
You want to make sure you always have breath mints and gum on hand. And the most important thing is drive with your windows down, because the minute a cop pulls you over or gets behind you, you should have your windows down to air out the car if you did have anything to drink at all, even if you only had 1 or 2 at dinner. And that's not an uncommon thing, that most people have a glass of beer or 2 or a glass of wine or 2 at dinner. But the minute the police officer pulls you over, your windows are down. I would at least recommend driving a good 40, 50 yards if you just put them down to let the car air out. And then the police officer always comes up to the window and asks you the ultimate $1 million question. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Now, this is our advice and our opinion. You do what you want with it, but there's only one answer to that question ever. The answer is nothing. I had 0 to drink. The minute you say, oh, well, I only had a beer at dinner, or I only had a glass of wine 4 hours ago, you just gave that police officer probable cause to pull you out of the car and now run through the gamut of field sobriety tests that they're going to give to you. One thing you can do is refuse the field sobriety test. You don't have to do them. So if all those other things failed and the officer asks you to step out of the car, by all means, you have to step out of the car, but you don't have to do the field sobriety test. You can actually refuse them. You know, you didn't give them field tests, so they have nothing to prove that you're drunk. You denied alcohol drinking. You denied the field test. So what do they have left? A breathalyzer. Now, unfortunately, you can't refuse that in pretty much every state, because breathalyzer refusal will automatically amount to a loss of license. There's essentially no defense to it, and you're stuck. Your best bet is to take your chance, blow the breathalyzer, but knowing you've already knocked out 2/3 of the things they would have against you, meaning that you failed field sobriety test, you admitted to drinking alcohol, none of that you did. So now it comes down to what you really have in your system in that breathalyzer. And if it, God forbid, happens to be a 0.08 or greater, then you're going to have to live the fight another day and challenge it. But hopefully with the tips I just gave, you won't get to that point. Safe driving always.